So Skeleton Crew, this is the latest Star Wars original series from Lucasfilm, and it is mostly sort of a coming of age story, doing something a little bit different from what we've seen with previous Star Wars stories, especially on the Disney Plus side of things. But it is a coming of age story that is focusing on a group of young children who've been taken away from their home planet in this galaxy far, far away. And this is, sort of the latest in a long line of Star Wars television shows that, of course, Lucasfilm have been producing, and certainly we've talked about nearly all of them, I think, to mixed results. Some have been fantastic, some not so much, and this is also kind of in, I think, somewhat of an unenviable position following The Acolyte, which came out earlier this year,
Ooh.
which was certainly, I think, for a lot of people, it was it was just not their best effort. There was a lot of critical I guess just a lot of criticism for that show in general, and we did find out shortly thereafter that they would not be renewing that particular series for a season 2. So Star Wars is in a strange place as always. Still no
Yeah.
really confirmed movies outside of The Mandalorian and Grogu, and we're still getting television series, and Skeleton Crew does sort of represent and embody something a little bit different for them. But the first 2 episodes have premiered. This is going to be an 8-episode season 1, and it is created by John Watts, which is, John Watts has become one of the most successful directors. He's coming off of the Spider-Man trilogy from Marvel Studios, and now he's coming into this the Star Wars universe and leading the series forward. And they do have a star-studded list of directors that are going to be taking up directing responsibilities. David Lowery directed the 2nd episode. Bryce Dallas Howard, of course, is going to be coming back and directing more episodes. Lee Isaac Chung, John Watts, of course, as well, and the Daniels are also directing an episode later this season. So definitely a lot of talent that are associated with this show. But now with the first 2 episodes that are out, and we've gotten a chance to see them, I will pass it over to you. What do you think so far about Skeleton Crew?
Man, it's been a rough time for Star Wars. Talk about a roller coaster, man. You get you get Mandalorian, and then you get Book of Boba Fett, and you're like, oh, and then you get, you might get something crazy like what's the show? Andor, and then it's like, oh man, we're doing something else crazy over here, and it's just been a roller coaster of emotions, and it's very weird in the Star Wars side of things. But so far, Star Wars Skeleton Crew, it's scratching the right itch for me, man. It's doing what it needs to do. This is very much the Steven Spielberg filling issue of Star Wars for me right now. A bunch of kids, ragtag team of kids, are forced to kind of be pirates in the galaxy, and it's just like, wow, there's wonder. And what's so important to me, something we've talked about these Star Wars shows over and over again, is the look of them sometimes, and like, whoa, how did we get there, and what is it? The look of this show is really good to me. I actually love, especially episode 1 of this show. No super spoilers here, but it's very residential. You can see the houses of people that live and wherever they live in this universe, and you're like, dang, it looks really good actually. And I could tell where the money went, and some of the attention to detail went there. And so far, man, it feels good. It feels like an adventure. It feels like, in any of those Goonie movies or anything in that nature. It feels kind of up that alley, but make it Star Wars. And so I'm excited to see the rest of the adventure. But so far, I'm actually having a good time with it. And so I hope they can keep this momentum, because I've seen other times where a Star Wars show might start okay for me, and then end, and then episode 3 or 4 comes out, and you're like, whoop, you officially lost me. But so far, Skeleton Crew has me, and I think it might have a promising future, or at least I hope it does.
Yeah, Star Wars, to say it's in a complicated place would be a gross understatement, especially for me and just my fandom, and how that relationship has evolved in the Disney Plus era, because it's become even more complex with the more projects that we see on a yearly basis, and the shows, they're not even a mixed bag to me. They're mostly negative for me, with the exception of Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2 and Andor. But when you compare that with the overall output of seasons that we've gotten, I mean, that's the vast minority of things that I've liked. And so Skeleton Crew was something that I had no interest in initially. I had no enthusiasm about it. And then I saw the trailer a few months ago, and I think we talked about it on the show. And I was like, oh, okay, it feels good. It feels right. It feels like that they might be onto something different, and calling back to, those comfortable places of nostalgia that I think we all kind of
Mhm.
remember in terms of growing up and feeling that childlike wonder and also watching those, those certain films produced in the Amblin era, that evoke that sense of discovery and wonder. And also Kathleen Kennedy produced a lot of those films alongside Steven Spielberg. So who better than
Mhm,
her
mhm.
to, of
Right.
course, be at the top of Lucasfilm to also I would ensure and think, she would likely lend a lot of her expertise and her knowledge towards this project in particular on how to bring that to life, how to really encapsulate that feeling. And so far within these first 2 episodes, they are doing a really, really good job at that. And I do like what they have shown us thus far. I was very, very surprised by the first episode because of how residential it is, because of how much of it takes place in
Mhm.
just a regular neighborhood, and you just get to see some ordinary life because we know Star Wars is it's a galaxy far, far away. So a lot of the planets that we've seen, a lot of the environments have been larger than life. They've been
Mhm.
huge. They've been these really, really sweeping, epic sort of set pieces and backdrops to the story. And we often don't get a chance to see something that is not only, I think, a little bit more grounded from a physicality and a physically, I guess a physical play standpoint, but it's also thematically just a little bit lighter on its feet. It's not addressing anything that's seemingly all that heavy. It's a pretty simple story. It's just about children in peril, being
Mhm.
taken away from home and they have to sort of figure out their way back home. That's a pretty simple story that transcends obviously multiple generations, that can work if you do it well, if you know how to bring again that type of sensibility to life. And we've been living in an era over the past, I would say 10 years, really with streaming with the past 10 years. I mean, everything is sort of nostalgia driven now, but we've seen this done numerous times already. Stranger Things is obviously a big component in terms of, taking children and calling back to that era of the Goonies and even the
Mhm.
first It, and just like recalling those feelings and, what it's like for kids to have to sort of rise up and overcome the obstacles in front of them. And so now Star Wars is going to take a crack at that, but do it in a bit more of an innocent way, which again lends itself to everything we've seen in the 80s with the Goonies and E.T. and all sorts of things like that. And it works so far. And it's also, funnily, I think, because even it is like more grounded, it is like one of the more cinematic things that they have done on the Disney Plus side of things. It
Mhm.
does look really, really good. There's a sequence, I won't give it away, but there's a sequence at the end of the first episode, definitely a cliffhanger, which is just like, it's incredible. It's awe-inspiring. It's like, wow, yes, that
Yep.
feels like a moment that's kind of ripped out of another movie from my childhood, where it's like, yeah, the adventure begins now. We're kind of off to the races,
Mhm.
and it's really, really incredibly done. So I have to definitely give praise and credit to John Watch for that, for bringing that cinematic sensibility to the small screen. So I think that, if they can keep this up, obviously for the next 6 episodes, they'll be in pretty good shape. And it's nice to have a bit of a different pace and a bit of a different tone within Star Wars. My criticism has been consistent that, we're just getting the same stories told over and over again about the same ideas and characteristics and tropes that exist within this universe. This hasn't quite broken out of that yet. There's still a
Mhm.
lot of stuff that's just like, hey guys, it's Star Wars again. We're in this universe and look how crazy and beautiful and wondrous it is. But I anticipate that there's more here, and I'm
Yeah.
excited to see how it all unfolds. And so the next few weeks will certainly be interesting for Skeleton Crew. But folks, those are all of our thoughts on this brand new Star Wars original series, Skeleton Crew. If you've checked it out, hit us up and let us know what you think about it.